Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide. A reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that the very first General Conference of the Church was held with only 26 members? Discover that today, the General Conference is a worldwide gathering, broadcast in over 80 languages during the first weekends of April and October. Learn that the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square is made up of 360 volunteer singers and is accompanied by a 110-member orchestra and an organ with over 7,000 pipes. Hear from church leaders around the world who share messages focused on Jesus Christ and his gospel. Discover that everyone from all faiths, beliefs, and backgrounds from everywhere in the world is welcome to watch, listen, and participate.
So picture the Peter Whitmer farmhouse. This is in Fayette, New York.
Right.
And it is June 9th, 1830. You are standing in this really modest, probably incredibly cramped living room.
Oh, yeah, definitely cramped.
Right. And there are exactly 26 people there. The prophet Joseph Smith is presiding. And, there are no microphones. There are obviously no satellite uplinks.
No.
It is literally just a handful of individuals gathered in a small wooden room, just trying to navigate the very earliest days of their faith.
Yeah, it's incredibly humble beginning.
Exactly. But now I want you to pull back from that tiny room and fast forward to today. Because on the first weekends of April and October, that gathering has evolved into this massive semi-annual event.
It really is staggering.
It is. I mean, it's broadcast live in over 80 languages, and then it's later translated into over 100 languages. Streamed globally on YouTube, the Gospel Library app, churchofjesuschrist.org, local TV. The contrast between that little farmhouse and the global footprint of the modern LDS General Conference is just this incredible journey of scale.
It really is.
So welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore the history, the logistical and engineering evolution, and the profound spiritual mechanics behind this gathering.
What's fascinating here is the core purpose of the event, which honestly hasn't wavered an inch despite that massive shift in scale.
Right.
Like whether the message is being delivered to 26 people in a farmhouse or beamed to millions of homes around the world, this remains a dedicated time for the prophet and general authorities to share messages of the living Christ and his restored gospel.
Yeah, the core hasn't changed at all.
Exactly. The entire architecture of the event is designed specifically so listeners can learn how to personally find peace, hope, and joy in Jesus Christ while strengthening their own families.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to truly understand the modern iteration of General Conference, we really have to look closely at its incredibly mobile, scrappy origins.
Yeah, very scrappy.
Right. Because from 1830 to 1834, the church was actually known as the Church of Christ. And in those early years, it functioned very much like a startup company that was just constantly being forced to relocate its headquarters.
That's a great way to put it.
They were entirely mobile. In fact, there is this wild historical detail in our sources regarding the conference held on April 6th, 1833.
Oh, the Missouri one.
Yes. It didn't even take place in a building at all. It was held on a ferry floating on the Big Blue River in Missouri.
Which is just wild to think about.
Right. You just have to imagine the raw, survivalist reality of that moment. Like trying to conduct a solemn religious gathering on the wooden deck of a ferry while the river just flows underneath you.
Well, and the logistics of those early meetings were entirely dictated by the immediate physical realities of the members.
Yep.
The conference was constantly shifting because the saints themselves were in this state of perpetual movement. I mean, they were attempting to gather, but they were facing intense local opposition.
Right. They kept getting pushed out.
Exactly. Forced to relocate from New York to Ohio, then down to Missouri, and eventually over to Illinois. So the formal gathering simply happened wherever the critical mass of members was located at the time.
It was this fascinating blend of trying to establish permanent spiritual roots while dealing with a completely transient physical reality.
Yeah. But things did begin to stabilize structurally when the majority of the members settled in Nauvoo, Illinois. This is from about November 1839 to February 1846.
Okay.
And that Nauvoo period is really critical because in 1840, the General Conference officially moved to the semi-annual schedule that you still participate in today.
Oh, wow. So that tradition goes way back.
It does. They also began creating a broader written record, publishing conference summaries in the local newspaper, the Times and Seasons.
Getting the word out.
Right. We also see the first signs of international expansion during this era. The first general conference held outside the United States took place in Great Britain.
Really? In Great Britain?
Yeah, driven by the practical reality that 9 of the quorum of the 12 apostles were actively serving missions there at the time.
Which, I mean, that highlights a massive vulnerability in that early system, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because if the conference is entirely dependent on the physical location of the leaders and the members, a huge physical disruption means the conference simply cannot happen.
Right.
And that is exactly why there is a notable, complete gap in the historical record from 1846 to 1847.
Yeah, the pioneer exodus.
Exactly. The entire body of the church was undertaking the exodus to the west. You cannot hold a multi-day conference when your entire population is literally walking across the Great Plains in covered wagons, just fighting for basic daily survival.
No, you really can't. But following that arduous pioneer exodus, the saints arrived in the Salt Lake Valley and finally established the permanent hub they desperately needed. Since October 1848, all general conferences have been held in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Wait, all of them?
Well, with one single exception in April 1877, which was held further south in St. George, Utah.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, they eventually completed the iconic Salt Lake Tabernacle in 1867, giving the conference a stable architectural home for over a century.
But, establishing a permanent headquarters in the high desert of Utah presents a massive new problem.
Yeah, distance.
Exactly. The church is expanding globally, but the physical gathering has a hard limit. Before the invention of radio and television, the average person living in a remote settlement, let alone another country, they couldn't just hop on a train to Salt Lake City twice a year.
No, travel was way too difficult.
So how do you disseminate highly specific, vital spiritual counsel to a population that physically cannot hear the speaker's voice?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this challenge actually forced the first major technological leap for the church. The solution required capturing the spoken word in real time. So enter a young English convert named George D. Watt.
George D. Watt.
Right. On April 6, 1850, Watt used shorthand to create the very first word-for-word transcriptions of the conference addresses.
Wow. In 1850.
Yeah. President Brigham Young would select specific talks, and Watt would literally sit there frantically translating the spoken English into specialized phonetic symbols as the speaker talked.
That is incredible, because we take transcription for granted today, with AI and recording software.
Oh, absolutely.
But in 1850, shorthand was cutting-edge technology. Watt had to mentally process the speech, convert it into geometric squiggles on a page at over 100 words a minute.
And then translate it back.
Yes, then painstakingly translate those symbols back into longhand by candlelight. And those written words were then set into physical type for the Deseret News and carried by horseback or wagon to remote towns weeks later.
It was a massive effort.
It was. That intense manual labor, just to capture the exact phrasing, it proves how critical these specific messages were to the pioneer members.
And that intense effort established a deeply ingrained culture of mass distribution. The church built an infrastructure for disseminating words across vast distances long before electronic media ever existed.
Right, they're already doing it manually.
Exactly. So when actual broadcast technology finally arrived, they were culturally primed to adopt it immediately. Radio broadcasts of General Conference officially began in 1923, and television coverage followed in 1949.
That's amazing.
The medium changed, but the underlying mission to get the prophet's exact words into the homes of the members remained totally identical to George D. Watt's efforts in 1850.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, structurally speaking.
Yeah.
Because as that broadcast audience scaled into the millions, the physical gathering space in Salt Lake City had to scale alongside it.
Yeah, the tabernacle couldn't hold everyone anymore.
Right. As beloved and acoustically brilliant as the tabernacle is, it simply couldn't hold the modern footprint of the church. So this physical limitation led to the construction of the conference center, which was completed in the year 2000.
It's a breathtaking building.
It really is. For anyone who has walked those halls, the statistics are just staggering. 1.4 million square feet, multi-level floors, a massive rooftop garden, and a terrace offering a direct view of the Salt Lake Temple.
Yeah.
But the main auditorium is the true engineering marvel. It seats 21,000 attendees.
And designing an indoor space to hold 21,000 people usually results in something that resembles a sports arena.
Right, with the massive support pillars everywhere.
Exactly, pillars that block the view for hundreds of seats. But the engineering requirement for the conference center was entirely different. The architects utilized massive steel trusses, very similar to the engineering used in large-scale bridge construction, to span the entire massive width of the roof.
Which means there are no vertical support columns interrupting the seating area at all.
None.
Every single one of those 21,000 attendees has a completely unobstructed line of sight to the pulpit.
It's amazing.
The room is engineered to ensure that despite the immense scale, the visual connection between the speaker and the listener is never broken.
Oh.
And the acoustic engineering required to prevent a 1.4 million square foot room from turning into a muddy echo chamber is just as impressive.
Yeah.
Especially when you factor in the Schoenstein organ.
Yeah.
It is housed directly in the auditorium and contains over 7,000 individual pipes.
7,000.
Yeah, some of which are literally among the largest organ pipes in existence.
And that instrument serves as the acoustic backbone for the music provided during the sessions, which our sources actually highlight as a crucial integrated element of the conference experience.
Right, the music is huge.
The music is not filler, it is part of the message. The Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, consisting of 360 highly accomplished singers, performs during each session. And they are joined by the orchestra at Temple Square, a companion ensemble of 110 members that was formed in 1999, right as the conference center was nearing completion.
I think the most remarkable aspect of both the choir and the orchestra is the underlying operational model.
Yeah.
Because you have 360 world-class singers and 110 elite musicians maintaining a standard of excellence that requires rigorous, constant rehearsal and performance schedules. And they are entirely volunteer-based.
Completely volunteer. Every single individual sitting in those choir lofts or playing in the orchestra is balancing their musical duties with their usual work and family responsibilities.
That's just wild to me.
Right. They are working their day jobs as teachers, accountants, engineers. They are raising children, managing households, and they coordinate all of that daily life with their demanding callings as musical missionaries. The conference center isn't just a building they visit twice a year. It serves as their permanent home venue for general conference, as well as their weekly national broadcast of music and the spoken word, and various special holiday performances.
The level of hidden daily sacrifice required to produce that flawless sound on a Sunday morning is a perfect mirror for the preparation happening behind the pulpit.
Absolutely.
Because the sources shift our focus away from the grand scale of the building and the massive logistics of the broadcast, bringing the narrative directly to the intimate personal experience, specifically the responsibility of you, the listener.
Right.
Participating in General Conference is presented as a profound privilege. The core belief driving all of this infrastructure is that listeners are directly blessed by hearing messages of inspiration and guidance from the Lord through the prophets, apostles, and other general authorities.
Which this raises an important question regarding the mechanics of how that guidance is actually received.
Okay.
Elder Dieter F. Uchtdorf provides a really revealing look behind the curtain regarding the speakers themselves.
Yeah, I loved this part.
He offers his personal witness that long before a speaker ever makes that long walk to the podium in the conference center, they have already invested immense effort, deep prayer, and rigorous study in response to their assignment to speak.
They aren't just winging it.
Not at all. They feel the profound weight of addressing millions of people who are actively seeking spiritual direction for their lives.
So what does this all mean for the person sitting in their living room watching on a screen?
Right.
Elder Uchtdorf essentially issues a challenge.
Yeah.
What happens when the listener matches the speaker's rigorous preparation with their own?
That's the key.
The text makes it clear that receiving an answer during conference is not a passive event where you just sit back and let the words walk over you. The spiritual mechanism requires action.
Action on the part of the listener.
Exactly. A heart filled with gratitude for the blessings of life, combined with an earnest desire to actually hear and follow the words of counsel, is what prepares the way for personal revelation.
And the sources outline a fascinating psychological and spiritual phenomenon regarding how those answers actually arrive.
Yeah.
Sometimes the answer to your specific prayer comes as a direct logical response, like a speaker addresses your exact problem head-on. But the text notes that at other times, answers may come in a seemingly unrelated word, phrase, or even a background song.
I love this concept.
Yeah.
because it's less like a standard broadcast and more like a mechanical cipher.
Oh, that's a cool way to look at it.
Like, the speaker might be delivering a thoroughly researched talk about pioneer history from the 1840s while you are sitting there silently agonizing over a modern career change.
Right.
The speaker's words act as the tumbling mechanism inside a lock. But your active preparation, the specific questions you are holding in your mind, acts as the key.
Yeah.
When the speaker uses a specific phrase or the choir hits a certain chord, the lock turns. Your brain makes a sudden associative leap, and you receive profound clarity about your career, even though the speaker literally never mentioned employment.
And that associative revelation is exactly why active preparation is treated as a mandatory component of the experience.
Right.
The sources directly prompt you to evaluate how you prepare to hear these words.
Okay.
They ask you to examine the traditions in your family surrounding General Conference. For many, this is a deeply ingrained multi-generational anchor.
Like an event.
Yeah, families gather together, specific meals are prepared, and a dedicated environment of listening is created in the home. The church websites even provide printable activities specifically designed for children and youth to help them engage with, understand, and really remember what is being taught.
It is entirely about building an environment of expectation. And perhaps the most vital preparation step outlined in the text is the act of pinpointing exactly what personal concerns or questions you want to have answered when you watch.
Yes.
Because defining the question in your own mind fundamentally alters how you process the incoming information.
Right.
You are no longer just listening to a speech. You are scanning the audio for a highly personalized spark.
Which brings this entire massive endeavor full circle.
It really does.
I mean, the church utilizes satellite feeds, simultaneous translations into over 100 languages, and the engineering marvel of a 21,000-seat auditorium. But all of that cutting-edge technology and logistical effort is deployed for a single, quiet purpose.
Yeah.
To facilitate a deeply personal moment of clarity for an individual listener who has taken the time to prepare their heart. And the sources also remind us that this privilege is meant to be shared, encouraging members not to forget to invite others to join as they watch and listen.
Looking back at the whole picture, it is just incredible to trace the line from 26 people huddled in the Peter Whitmer farmhouse in 1830 to a makeshift gathering on a ferry in Missouri, through the painstaking shorthand translations of George T. Watt, all the way to the flawless acoustics of the modern conference center.
It's an amazing journey.
It is. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today, building on that concept of associative revelation we just discussed. If profound, highly specific answers to your deepest concerns can come from a seemingly unrelated phrase or a background song during a conference session, it really makes you wonder about the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, how differently would you consume all the information in your daily routine? Every conversation with a coworker, every book you read, every moment of quiet reflection, if you were constantly listening with that exact level of intentional, active expectation.
That's a really powerful thought.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive. Participating in this kind of exploration is a true privilege, and we are thrilled you took the time to do it with us. Until next time, keep asking the big questions.
Thank you for joining us for this day in His story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in His story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.